Hey, good day, everyone. Welcome to the latest Straight Up Hangouts. It's a weekly event presented by Barrel Strength Design and Pixel Tonic. My name is Ben Friesick from Barrel Strength, and we have today with us Brandon Kelly and Luke Holder from Pixel Tonic. Luke, lead developer of Craft Commerce, is going to be leading the way for us yet again today, going into some details on extending the product, shipping, addresses, and I'm sure we'll be learning about a few more things along the way. So without further ado, I'll hand things over to Luke and we'll go. If you have any questions along the way, please post them in the sidebar and we'll try to integrate them. Don't feel you have to wait to the end. Post them as you have them and I'll try to get them on Luke's plate as I can. All right, Luke.
Okay, thank you very much, Ben. Okay, so today I was thinking we'd talk about shipping, custom shipping methods or shipping calculators. So we're going to build a plugin that will provide some custom shipping rules that are applicable to the website that we're building. And then we're also going to look at address validation and then just generally how addresses kind of work in the system. We might look at the database or look at how you manage addresses. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen if I can get the button back up. If I share the right one. Okay, hopefully we're good to go there. Maybe you thumbs up? Yes?
Good to
Everyone can see
go.
my screen? Okay, great. All right, so I've installed the demo from craftcommerce.com. I've downloaded and installed it. And at the moment, if I go into settings and I look at my shipping methods, we've installed a shipping method called free shipping. So if you wanted to, you could come in here and you could edit this or add some rules for this shipping method. So at the moment, the way shipping works is a shipping method is the thing that your customer selects. So this is what they choose as their shipping option. And so the shipping method will supply them with a price for that shipping method. But what builds up that shipping method's price is a bunch of rules. So this shipping method has a rule called free everywhere. And all that does is say they can be from any country and any state. There's no minimum order quantity or maximum order quantity or minimum price of the order. There's no minimum weight. It just will match the order for every condition, and it's going to add zero costs to the cart. But we will talk about these as we go through building the plugin, but you could add costs at the order level, or what we call a base rate. So it's the kind of the foundation amount of cost for the shipping, as well as like you can add costs per item and per weight. All right, so if I come back up here, like I said, we have a shipping method. If I add another shipping method, so let's just say, let's just call this one $10 total. Or actually, let's call this hand delivered. Okay. So now that we've created the shipping method, we can create a rule, and maybe we'll say free if you live in WA. That's Western Australia for me. We can give it a better description if we wanted to show to the customer. And then I'm going to say, I'll deliver this by hand if you live in Western Australia. And so I'm not going to have any conditions or options I'm going to put on the cart, but I'm going to say it's going to cost $10 for if you live in Western Australia. So I save that. And if this does not match, meaning if the address of the person checking out doesn't live in Western Australia, then this shipping method won't be available. So let's quickly just demo that because it's a good thing to understand. So I'm going to go to my front-end templates and then I'm going to add something to the cart. I'm going to check out. And the first time I check out, I'm just going to say I'm from Australia, but I'm from New South Wales. So you can see when I get to the shipping page, the available shipping methods that I have is just the free shipping, because that was the only one that matched based on the rules. If I go back now and update my address, I'm going to change my address to be in Western Australia. And now you can see there's a hand delivery option available. So our default kind of shipping engine or rules engine allows you to set up a shipping method and a bunch of rules that could apply. Now, if you wanted to, we could create an additional rule. So I could say it would be $50 if you're in South Australia. And so again, I can choose the location. And I'm going to say that this is $50. And of course, the method would stay the same because hand delivery is a certain type of method. So another method may be FedEx delivery, or another method might be standard post. So if I move my address into South Australia, which I'll just do now, I'm going to create another new address and put it to South Australia. You can see that the same method is there, but a different rule matched, so there's a different price. So hopefully that's kind of clear, the way that shipping methods and shipping rules work together. So a shipping method has one or more rules to allow the cart to know whether it's an option for that cart, whether it's available to that cart. Okay, so with that said, what we can do is we can build a plugin that provides additional shipping methods and also provides its own cost calculations based on anything that we want. So to get started, what we're going to do is we're going to build a basic plugin. And one service that has just been created recently, which is excellent, which is built by the guys at MI Studio 107, New York Studio, I'm assuming that means, is Plugin Factory. So I'm going to quickly create a plugin, and this plugin is going to provide shipping methods and shipping rules to commerce. So I'm going to call this plugin Custom Shipper. Obviously, that's not the name that the custom would see when they're choosing the shipping method. We'll get to that. And then we'll just say provides shipping methods version. Say Luke, and I'm not going to give it an author. I'm not going to tweet it out. And then the cool thing about this service is we can generate a scaffold for a plugin very quickly. So we don't need console commands, controllers, element types, field types. We're just going to provide a model, and I'm going to call this courier. So this is going to be a courier method. So this is a shipping method for courier. And then I'm also going to create a courier rule. And we're just going to create one rule. The way that rules work, if I didn't explain it properly the first time, is the rules start from the top, and the first rule that matches is the one that gets returned for the shipping method, for the cost. And so you can have like cascading rules down inside your shipping method until maybe at least one of them match the order, and if none of them match, then this method is not available to the choice for the cart. So I'm just going to call this courier method. So if we wanted to, if this plugin provided more than one shipping method, maybe it's a FedEx, you can also provide FedEx pricing. So if people wanted to choose FedEx, we could do that, but we're just going to do like a custom one today that just does some of our own calculations. I'll just say that there's a service, and I'm not sure if we'll use this, but I'll just show you how you could have your centralized logic for your shipping calculator in a service, and then all of your shipping methods and rules can obviously access that central calculator in your plugin too, so you're not reproducing any of the logic in your different shipping methods. Okay, so I'm going to say build my plugin, and I didn't put an author URL, so I'll do that. And let's do it. Okay, so this has created a custom shipper plugin. It's got kind of the basic scaffold of a craft plugin. There's our plugin main class, and it's come with our service that it generated for us, and then it generated a couple of models, which is going to be our shipping method and shipping rule, courier method, courier rule. So let's copy that plugin into our installation of Craft alongside Commerce, and let's jump back into the control panel. So there's our custom shipper plugin, and right now it has no logic. It's not connected to Craft Commerce in any way, but must have had it installed before, but there we go. I've installed it again. And now let's jump into the actual code. So Ben or Brandon, if you have any things that you want to call me out on, just let me know. I can stop at any time. Okay, so if we jump into our plugin file, there's the base kind of definition of a plugin was generated by the plugin factory, and we've installed it. So the first thing we're going to do to connect to create our shipping method is to jump into our shipping method class. So there is our shipping method. It came with a default attributes. We're not going to need that. I can remove that. So this is just a regular craft model, extends base model. But what we're going to do is we're going to say that it implements the shipping method interface. So a shipping method interface is provided by Commerce interfaces, and so what we're saying is this class needs to implement all the methods on the shipping method interface. So what I'm going to do, I'm using PHP Storm. One of the cool things that you can do with PHP Storm is generate the implementations of those methods. So I'm going to say implement the methods for shipping method, and you can see down here are the methods that need to be implemented for the system to recognize this as a shipping method. So I'm going to add those, and that's gone and added the all the methods that this model needs to have to be called a shipping method. Okay, so let's run down through the methods. First is the type. So if you had a suite of different shipping methods, they might all be of the same type for your plugin. So I'm just going to say this is I'm going to call this custom shipper. You can see the ones that come with Craft that you build yourself in the control panel are called custom. This is more of a system field. Then our shipping method does not have an ID. So we can return null there. For the name, we're going to call this courier. Actually, let's just call it courier. So it's a courier shipping method. The handle. So the handle is important for, I'm going to call this custom shipper courier. The handle is important because this is what actually gets chosen by the customer and submitted to their cart. So the handle identifies which shipping method the customer has chosen. Okay, we also give you the option, if you're providing a fairly advanced shipping method. It may be that you have like your own config area, or you have your own configuration for this shipping method. You can provide a URL. We won't for now, so I'm just going to return a blank string. We're going to come back to this. This is where you can provide all the rules, and also we can decide whether this shipping method is enabled. So we're just going to say true. Okay, so coming back to the rules, I mentioned a moment ago we have a shipping method class that defines the method, and then you can have one or more rule classes that can have different rules. So let's open up the rules class, and the same as the shipping method, let's implement the shipping rule. And again, it's going to complain. Let's delete this boilerplate here. It's going to complain that we haven't implemented all of the methods for a shipping rule. So let's go to generate, implement, and here are the shipping methods that the methods that need to be on a shipping rule. And I just accidentally deleted all of that. So let's generate that again. Okay, so what we're doing now is we've set up a shipping model, a shipping method, sorry. Now we're setting up the shipping rule. Again, this is going to have a handle to identify it, and this is going to be called, I'm just going to call this rule 1 for now. Then we have a method called match order. We're going to come back to that. That's one of the most important for this shipping rule. We have an enabled flag. This shipping rule is enabled. Okay, get options. So get options, when someone does use this shipping rule or this shipping method, then we can supply data to how we got to this answer for this shipping cost to the cart. So it stores it like a snapshot onto the cart, so that in the future, obviously, rates change, things change. We want to still have a snapshot of the data that went into making the decision on this shipping rule. So right now, I'm just going to return the fact that it was rule 1 was the thing that generated, and I'm just going to say true, using the wrong syntax there, but we'll get to explaining how we can add additional information there. Get the percentage rate. So this is where we actually are getting into where the rule can provide different costs to the cart. So let's just return 0 for now for each of these. So that was the percentage rate. This is the per item rate. Whether there's a weight rate that this shipping rule provides, a base rate, the max amount of cost that this shipping rule could ever calculate, the min rate, and the description. So for a description, let's just say that this is courier, and we'll just say rule 1 again so that we can see where this information is coming from. Okay, so now I've set up my method and we've set up a rule. Let's go into the method again, and let's just say this method uses these rules. So like I said before, just like the regular shipping, if I come into the shipping methods here, just like these regular ones can have multiple rules in a particular order, so can your custom shipping methods. So what I'm going to do is return a custom shipping rule, a new one, and this is where if I had multiple rules, I could return all of the different rules that this shipping method uses. Now, obviously, like this is instantiating a class. It's just you could add in your own initializers. Maybe you pass in like your config from your plugin for the different. Maybe there's like API credentials or something, because your shipping rule is going to look up a price from a third party. So it's all just PHP. I'm just showing you kind of the main scaffold. So now this shipping method is returning this shipping rule. Now, still, if I refresh the rules, sorry, the shipping methods, it's not available. It's not listed in the shipping methods. And that's because we haven't told Craft Commerce about our new shipping method and shipping rules. So let's go back into PHP Storm, and let's jump down to our main plugin class. So our main plugin class needs to have a method that provides all of the different methods that this plugin provides, if that makes sense. So if I go to create that, I think it's commerce, I'll put that written down, register shipping methods. I believe that's got an extra M. That looks right. And now what we're going to do is we're going to return an array of shipping methods that our plugin provides. So there we go. So what we've done now is our main plugin is telling Craft Commerce that we provide, this plugin here provides this custom shipping method. And now, fingers crossed, if we refresh the page, here we have our new shipping method in the system. Now, obviously, it's not one that we configure by hand by default, because you can remember that we never provided like a way to click on it and customize the options of this shipping method. Because these shipping methods can be completely different in the way they work or calculate to our standard ones, we allow you to set up any screens or config screens that you want in your plugin for that shipping method.
So in the case of live rates, you wouldn't expose a bunch of settings because you're grabbing those rates dynamically. And
yes, exactly. Or maybe it would be a combination, right? Maybe the shipping method just needs a couple of inputs from the customer, from the client that sets it up, but it may then, for the rest of the rates, go to the API. You're right. So this, if you provide a URL and you click that there, then it's going to take you to the custom screen you create with the settings that your shipping method needs. So hopefully that makes sense.
Yep.
Does that answer the question?
Yep. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Okay. So now that we've got our shipping method available, and if you remember, we go into our shipping rule for this shipping method, we can see that there was one method that we didn't implement, and that was whether this rule matches the current cart or matches the current order. So what we're going to do is, first I'm going to show you how it works. We're going to say return true. We're going to say that whenever the system wants to know whether this rule matches the order, we're always going to return true. So now if we come out here and we refresh the page, there we have our custom shipping method, and it's obviously returning a value of 0. So I'm going to go in and out and show you how the rule can provide different values. So let's go straight down to the fact that maybe this shipping rule is always $50, and you're just going to hard code the cost into the plugin, into the rule. If I refresh the page, there is the courier for $50. And if you remember, I think I added one thing to the cart. So say I have a per item rate of $3. You can see now it's $53. And so this is pretty much the same as like the standard rules that you'd set up with the UI at this point. You're kind of just returning prices based on hard-coded values. But let's get into providing some further options. So the match order method gets called for every time it gets to a rule until it gets a matched return true. So if it's obviously a return false there, would make it disappear. So in here is where you can do some pretty cool stuff with logic. So let's say that this shipping custom courier method, we can only do provide it if the order has a total quantity, actually I think it's like get total quantity of greater than, let's just say 2. And so if the quantity is greater than 2, then we could return true because this one matches, otherwise it's going to return false. I could have done a bit of shorthand coding there, but I'm just being a bit explicit. So again, this is not returning, but as soon as I go back to my cart, as you will expect, if I update the quantity of my cart, and I'm going to jump straight over to the shipping, you can see that it's returning true because I have more than 2 items in my cart. Otherwise it would return false. But you can see that in here, as a PHP developer, you can add like some really advanced rules where you're investigating the cart. Also, it allows you to investigate the current shipping address of the order. So let's say that our courier, from here, let's do this. Let's go shipping address equals the order shipping address. I'm kind of doing things fairly simplistic at the moment. Actually, I should be able to do that. Obviously, like you'd be doing some more advanced kind of guards if the shipping address didn't exist, but we know it does for now. So let's say shipping address is there, and then I could say maybe if the shipping address, if its zip code is in, let's say 6056, then we could return true. Okay, so that could be a simple rule for this rule. So a rule could be very simple, and you could provide multiple rule classes that cascade down until it matches, or you could build a rule that's highly advanced that kind of always matches and customizes the price. So let's do that. Let's say that if it's in my postcode, what we're going to do is I'm going to say it's free because I could deliver this by just walking to your house. But if it's outside of my postcode, then I'm going to do something that's more advanced. So I'm going to add a class method, a class property. I'm just going to say the base rate. So I'm going to say if it's in this postcode, then I'm going to say this base rate is equal to 0 and return true. Let's just do always return true. Otherwise, it's the regular $50. So now if I come down to my base rate, obviously it can be much more advanced than this. And I might just do that so that we don't get any clash with our get base rate method. Okay, so now if I refresh, it's going to cost the regular 65. And if I come back to my address, let's go and put in a zip code. You can see that the courier was only 15 because the base rate was 0, but we still had that per item rate of $3 per item. So we put that to 0. Okay, and then of course the description can be made up of the price that you've come up with. So maybe what we could do is we could say we're going to say is local. So let's do a property here for is local. And I'm going to say is local is true. And then down here we could do something like Uh, let's do very simple. I'm kind of just, okay, I'm stuck in Craft's mindset of saying locale everywhere, so let's just make sure I didn't do that elsewhere. Yep. And then maybe I'll just concatenate. So you haven't got the description showing up there, but I know in the example templates we have it showing up. Thought I had it showing up here. So I'm not going to get into that, but yeah, that's just about how you do it. The description, unless the description is coming from the method. Let's just make sure that that's working. Okay, I'll leave that for now. But you could customize the description that returns for this method. Yep, go
So
for it, Ben.
do all of the shipping rules only display when they're valid? If, for example, you had a situation where you wanted to advertise free shipping that was conditional in only a certain use case, is there a way to display a grayed out option in the list of shipping items that said if you went back and added 2 more items to your cart, you could get free shipping or something like that?
Yeah, so at the moment, if we look at the template code in our example templates, we go to checkout shipping choice. This is where we're looping over the shipping choices. The variable that we're using, and where is my for loop? There it is there. So these are called available shipping methods. So these are shipping methods that are available to the current cart or the current user based on whether they match the cart or not. So this is only showing the rules that match. What you would need to do in that case is you could have a separate loop that maybe it cycles over your custom shipping methods and returns data that calculates things outside of the applicable shipping methods to the cart. So obviously if it's grayed out, they wouldn't be able to select it. So you could add additional grayed out options here that might say something to the effect of if you add one more thing to the cart, then this method will become available, and this is how much it would cost. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. Yeah.
So right now it's just showing only the available, and also one thing to note: if you choose a shipping method if they choose a shipping method and then they come back and change their address to one that no longer matches, the shipping method will drop off the order, so they no longer have a shipping choice selected. So there's no way that they can kind of select their shipping method, go back, change their address, and have that same shipping method work for them. So you would obviously always check that they've got their shipping method before you allow them to check out. Does that answer the question, Ben?
Yep. And if anybody else has questions, please feel free to post to the channel.
Okay. All right. So one thing we did in this example here is we checked for an explicit zip code. Now, one thing that you may know, those that have used Craft, is that we haven't got we've got virtually no validation on the addresses. So if I jump back over here and I'm going to create a new address again, just so I can give an example. So if our store required a zip code, right now with the default installation, we could very much save that address without a shipping zip code. So what I'm going to do now, because our shipping methods, maybe they all require a postcode, I'm going to show you how we can also add that functionality inside the same plugin. So if I come over here to our plugin, jump into our main plugin class. So we've provided a bunch of shipping methods, but maybe there's some address validation that needs to occur on the addresses before they even can be saved. So let's add a hook, or let's hook into an event that Craft Commerce provides, and that's for address validation. So I'm going to do this inside the init method. I'm going to register my hook or register my event listener. And I'm going to do that by saying commerce.on. And I'm going to provide the event I'm listening to, and I think it's going to be commerce addresses.on before. I might just look up the docs. Might be good. So craft commerce. Even I could look in the code, but I'll just show you how you can see these in the docs.
Always good to see the product developer using their own docs.
Well, I could have jumped over to the actual class, but I'm going to show you guys. So I'm going to go to the events reference. So these are the different events that Craft Commerce provides. And so I'm just going to do a Control F and look for an address event, and that's the one we want. This is on before save address. So I'm going to copy that. And so there's our event, and actually it also has a snippet here of how to listen to it. So let's just copy that, save me typing it out. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to be listening to this event, and then we get passed in an event for the event that occurred to a function, an anonymous function. So I'm going to say, I'm just copying what's below. Our address is the address param inside the event. So if you look at the documentation, it will say there's a list of params for this event, and one of those is, let's get rid of that yellow, is the address, and so that's the only param that's passed in from this event. So I'm going to say address equals, and then what I'm going to say is, not sure why my indentation is not working. Okay, if address zip code, let's say empty. So if the zip code is empty on the address, meaning it's a blank string, then what we're going to do is we're going to tell the event that it shouldn't perform the action. So we're going to say perform action false. You can see there, and actually let's just copy this as well from the example.
Perform is missing an R.
Thank you. And why is it complaining about my syntax? I'm missing a bracket. I'm being lazy. I'm just gonna, I think there was something, oh, there was an additional bracket there on the on. There we go. That's why my indentation wasn't working. Okay, so we're going to say if the zip code is empty, then we're going to perform false, perform action false, meaning this address will not save, therefore it won't be able to be submitted as a address for the cart. So in this event, we also want to do something additional, and that is we want to add an error to the address model. So we can say address. Let's add error. I'll just confirm there. Yep. And we're going to add the error to the zip code, and just going to wrap that in translation strings, and say zip code is required. Am I missing something there?
Missing T in the craft : T.
Oh. It's the perils of doing it live. Okay, so we're now obviously going to put an error onto the address model, and we're also not going to allow it to complete. So if I come back now, show that works. Again, I'm going to create a new address. I'm going to leave the zip code blank, confirm my address, and you can see it could not save the shipping address. The zip code is required. And so you can see how your plugin can provide not just the shipping methods with the calculations, but also the shipping rules. And I realize we've gone quite long so far. It can also provide a validation on the address, so that together it works together as a plugin to add lots of shipping rules to your order. So let's just do that. I'm just going to say the address is the same for billing. Go for it, Ben.
Luke, does Craft do any address validation out of the box, or is all address validation handled by plugins?
So the only validation it does is the first name and last name, and that's because we know that later on we're going to need the first and last name for billing, or for the credit card, etc. But also most addresses need at least the name it's addressed to. But yes, we don't provide any other validation for any of the other fields out of the box. There's just so many different rules that could apply. For example, we have someone using Craft Commerce at the moment that is only selling in certain postcodes, so they don't even let you submit your address that's not in a list of predefined zip codes. And that kind of interface, there's too many different things that you could do validation-wise to do with the address, that we allow just the plugins to add their own validation. The only other thing is the country is required, and that doesn't mean you have to show the country as a drop-down. You could hard code that if you're only delivering certain zip codes, but the country and the names are the only required fields.
Got it. So does that mean anybody who is shipping anything has to have a separate custom plugin in order to ensure that there's a full address that they're shipping to?
Yeah, in this case, that's correct. You'd be adding it would be a very simple plugin. It would just be the plugin class, an init method, and this listener, and you could add your own rules for each of the fields that are required here. So in the future, we may look at having simple required checkboxes in the configuration in the control panel, but for now, it's so simple if you're a developer or building websites to add this kind of validation.
Yeah, and there are thousands of possibilities, I'm sure. So
yeah, another use case might be the business tax ID. So some people require that, and some people might even want to validate the ID against an API. So yeah, there's lots of different uses. Was someone else going to say something? No? Okay. I think we're going to have to wrap it up there. I think we've gone over time. But hopefully I've shown you how easy it is to create a shipping rule, a shipping method and shipping rules that can provide custom costs to the cart. One thing I forgot to show you is obviously you don't have to show the cart at the front and never show it again until the very end. You could show it the whole time through. So as they're selecting their shipping method and it gets applied to the cart, you can see it inside the cart, so they can see their total price before they actually submit their credit card information. So that's where the shipping methods get applied to. Yeah. Okay. So any questions? It's a bit of a whirlwind tour, but I invite you to rewatch it if you're building your own shipping method. Ben,
Yeah,
any
please post
questions come up?
questions. Yeah, we don't have any questions just yet. Everybody viewing, please post any questions you have to the sidebar, and we'll take them as they come in. Luke,
Do you have any other questions?
yeah,
You probably have some, Ben.
I'll
Go for
start
it,
off.
Ben.
I'd love to get a little better understanding of. It looks like you're doing some heavy address management in Craft Commerce, and I know we also have users in Craft, and Craft Commerce makes some of. I think, if I understand it correctly, Craft Commerce doesn't make any assumption that a Craft Commerce customer is a Craft user, but at some point in time, you can relate a customer to a user via their email address. What if you have a situation where you have users in Craft with addresses associated with them, and you're also managing customers on your site? How are the addresses and users related? How is commerce and users related? How do all these
Sure.
details tie together?
Okay. So let's start at the beginning. So a cart is totally independent of everything, right? So you can come to a website and create a cart, and you don't have to be logged in, so you're not a user, and you can create a cart. Now, when you create a cart and you are just filling in the basic kind of adding things to the cart, there's no information to do with a customer yet. So we have a guest customer that gets created, but it's very minimal. So it's so if I come into the database, let's do that. Hopefully, I can show. So we have a commerce customers table, but you'll see it's very minimal. So it has just an ID, it has an email address, and then it optionally has a user ID. But if you just came to the website, actually let's just do that now. I'll show you how it works. I'm going to create a new session, and you can see I'm a guest. If I refresh the data, there's no customer creator yet. If I come into here and I add something to the cart, you can see a blank customer record was created because an order always needs to have a customer record next to it. And this is kind of as far as it would go until you added an email address as a guest. So let's just say I'm going to make a guest email address, and I'm going to say continue as guest. All that has occurred at this stage is there's now an email address associated with this customer, this anonymous customer, and it's anonymous because there's no user related to it. And also the order itself now knows the email address that it belongs to because it's got that email address there. Now, if I go back and log in, so now I'm going to use my real account, hoping that my email address for this account is now you can see these are different email addresses. I'm going to log in. So this is a regular.
It was missing an L on the Gmail there.
Oh, was it? So this is a regular Craft login, okay? And because I've logged in now, all of my addresses that I've used previously, saved addresses, are showing up in their address list. And now if I refresh here, nothing's really changed. That guest customer didn't get removed or anything like that. It's just sitting there in history. But what did change is the order is now related to customer number 1. So as soon as I logged in and the cart was not completed, it's going to look for the current customer, And when it looks for the current customer, it's going to see that I'm logged in. Therefore, let's get the customer associated with this user. Does that make sense so far? So
Yes.
but now the customer is associated with the user. That means when I create addresses, I can see my address book because I'm logged in. I can see the addresses I've used previously. Whereas as a guest, actually let's come back here, log out. I can see my cart is still existing across logging in and logging out. But if I go to checkout, you can see there's no addresses listed now that I'm logged out, so I don't have access to any of the personal information of the logged in user. But the cart, stays there. It's just in the stored as a cookie in the session. So what I will show you now, though, is, and I'll go to the back end. Hopefully we have enough time. We have a custom field. We have two custom fields that we make available. One is products, that's for relating products, and the other one's just called customer info. And this is a field that was just designed very simply to add to your user profiles. So if I go into the user fields and I add customer info, let's remove that, save. Come over to the users. So here it's showing the field, and it's an information only field. No orders exist for this customer yet, but here is a bunch of addresses that are in their address book. So when I check out, actually let's come here. I've got too many windows open. Let's close that. Select an existing address. I'm just going to show you how. So this is an order of a total of 100. So let's go to orders. And that's our order there at the top. So you can see for this order that I'm currently working on, I've selected my billing address number 4 for both the billing and shipping. So the order knows the address of one of the addresses in my address book. And so when I go and add a actual order, complete the order, that's now complete. If I refresh here, you can see that it's now updated the billing addresses to new IDs. That's because when you complete an order, we copy the current address that you'd selected for the order, and we duplicate it so that it exists independently of your address book. So here is probably the addresses in my address book, and they are all accessible because I have a customer addresses table. So there's my customer ID, and there's all the addresses that I own, this user owns. But if I come to addresses, there's a couple more there, and these are the ones that were duplicated, cloned when you completed the order. And this is so that obviously if I come back into my addresses and I update the address that I chose, I think it was like this one, if as a customer, if I edit the address in my address book, it's not going to edit the address of the previous orders that I've made. So the address in a way has had a snapshot taken when the order was completed. Does that answer questions, Ben? I'm hoping.
Yeah, I think that gives a good idea of what's happening. So to rephrase, when Commerce allows you to manage addresses within it, it allows you to display them on a user profile as read-only information However, if we had any other use case where we say wanted to use a plugin like Smart Map or something where we got the benefits of an address field and integration with a map locator or something like that, that would have to be a separate field that gets managed alongside the commerce addresses.
Well, what I would probably do in that case is just allow the person to choose their addresses. You could have like a separate address field in their profile that people can manage their own addresses outside of the system. And it would just mean that when maybe on the front end here, you get them to select a particular address from that third-party field, but it populates the address behind the scenes, a commerce address. So that's probably the way I would do it, unless Brandon probably has a better idea. But yeah, that's how I would expect it. So you would still use the standard address that fit. We'd still have to use the standard address table in commerce to store the addresses for the order. But that's not to say that the source of the address was the address book. So in the case of a guest order, actually I'll just if I check out as a guest, it's not going to save that address into my address book or anything like that. It's just going to save it just for the order at the end. So there's no way for a guest to log in and see their previously used addresses. So if you were just doing a checkout with a guest, we actually have somebody that's doing that at the moment. They have they don't even have a shipping address that the customer would enter. They would just have some pickup locations. So what they've done is they've built just a section of their website that has some locations built, and they're just done in entries. And then the user would choose which entry, in effect, they want to pick up from, and that saves it on the order custom fields. But what that also does is it populates the shipping address in the background for the order, so that we've got the address of that pickup location. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that's good. Let's. There's a few more questions, so let me turn towards those. First one: are there sample commerce plugins available for reference, like this one? I believe the shipping.
There will be now. I'll just put a couple more examples into the one that we kind of built today, and I'll put it up on GitHub, and I'll post the link on Twitter and Slack and stuff. So so I can post the template for this plugin. You can see how easy and quick it was kind of to build, but I'm happy to post an example custom shipper. Now, if you want, there is the actual docs for shipping. If I can come here, just shipping methods. It's very kind of light, but it explains the main methods. So it just explains that you need to supply some delivery method classes, and this is the interface for the class, and there's the interface for the rules. So that together with the examples, hopefully you can figure out.
And are there any beyond the shipping ones, Luke? The question wasn't specific to shipping. Are there any other extension plugins?
Well, the only other one that I'm thinking is, there's purchasables. Maybe we can do a whole nother hangout for that. Purchasables, the documentation is fairly light. It just explains the methods on the interface, and it just references the class that you need to implement. But there's no example really out there for this, but that's definitely something that we could do in a hangout, and then I could publish an example purchasable. And then lastly, the other one that I'm thinking of was the OmniPay. So there is an OmniPay, I think I showed it last week. There is an example Ogone gateway as a plugin that I've on my GitHub, but we can also maybe do that as another hangout. I could walk through how to build one, and we can go through the steps of recreating it.
All right.
Um,
We
but yeah,
can talk about
the
getting
docs.
those on the list for another time.
Yeah, yeah, cool.
All right. One more question. Is it possible, Marion also asked, is it possible for one to make an order on behalf of another user?
Currently, no. But there would be a way to do that fairly simply in the with a plugin. So I would expect that maybe you'd have like a custom field on your order, and that custom field may record like a separate user. So as the person's filling out the cart, they might choose a user. I don't know whether you'd expose like a list of every user in your system, but or an email address maybe, and then you could just provide a hook for when the order is complete, and you could assign that to a user. So that assign that completed order to the user that was selected in that custom field. So hopefully that makes sense. Does that, you think that answers the question? Yeah.
I think so. Okay, that's it for our questions. We do have a thank you with multiple pluses. No question, just want to say thanks. That was really great. Thanks for taking the time to go through this. So thank you again, Luke, for a deeper dive into craft commerce, and we can consider getting some of those other topics on the list for another week here as well.
Cool.
Any wise words from Brandon before we check out?
I got nothing. I learned a lot. This is great.
Excellent. Okay, folks. Next week we will be talking about troubleshooting and debugging errors. This has been a Straight Up Hangout. This event will be posted on the website on the Straight Up Craft website within a couple hours. And this is a weekly event, so join us some other Friday. We'll be talking about various topics here with members of Pixel Tonic. Look forward to see you next time.
Thanks a lot, Ben.
Yeah, thanks, Ben.
Have a good week, everyone.